The day humanity received an offer of sanctuary from advanced alien civilizations, most people celebrated. But when humans started asking what exactly they needed sanctuary from, the alien silence became more terrifying than any answer they could have given. October 14th, 2029. The world had been dying for 3 years. But today felt like the beginning of the end. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the Global Crisis Response Center in Geneva, surrounded by holographic displays showing Earth's vital signs in real time. Every screen told the same story: humanity was running out of time. The Convergence Crisis, as scientists had named it, wasn't just one disaster, it was every possible disaster happening simultaneously, as if the planet itself had decided to reject its human inhabitants. Temperature anomalies are accelerating beyond our worst-case models, reported Dr. Chen, her chief analyst, his voice strained from weeks of sleepless nights. The Antarctic ice shelf is collapsing faster than we thought physically possible. We're looking at a 15-foot sea level rise within 18 months. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Elena nodded grimly, her eyes scanning the cascade of red alerts flooding their monitoring systems. In Asia, crop failures had triggered mass migrations of over 200 million people. Unprecedented Category 6 hurricanes, a classification they'd had to invent, were systematically destroying coastal cities across the Americas. The Amazon rainforest was burning so intensely that smoke clouds were visible from space stations. In Africa and the Middle East, the last major aquifers were running dry, sparking conflicts that made previous wars look like minor disputes. Economic projections? She asked, though she already knew the answer would be catastrophic. Total systemic collapse within 6 months, replied Dr. Sarah Martinez from the Economic Analysis Division. Supply chains have completely disintegrated. The global food distribution network failed last week. Currency systems are reverting to barter exchanges in most developing nations. President Maria Santos of the Global Unity Council appeared on the main communication screen, her face gaunt with exhaustion. Behind her, emergency session delegates from every remaining stable government worked frantically on evacuation plans that everyone knew were inadequate. Elena, give me something I can tell 8 billion people, President Santos said. The unified governments are demanding realistic timelines for survival strategies. Elena looked at the data one more time, hoping the numbers had somehow changed in the last 5 minutes. They hadn't. Madam President, with our current resources and technology, organized human civilization has approximately 18 months remaining. Maybe 24 if we implement every emergency protocol simultaneously and nothing else goes wrong. The silence on the communication channel spoke volumes. Everyone understood what "nothing else goes wrong" meant when everything was already going wrong. At exactly 3:47 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, while world leaders debated impossible evacuation scenarios and scientists calculated the precise date of civilization's collapse, the sky above every major capital on Earth transformed. Admiral Rebecca Torres was reviewing military contingency plans in the Pentagon Situation Room when Lieutenant Colonel James Wright burst through the reinforced doors without bothering to knock. "Admiral, you need to see this immediately," he said, gesturing toward the massive display screens that monitored global airspace. "We have visitors." The objects that had appeared weren't the massive, intimidating warships that decades of science fiction had trained humanity to expect. Instead, shimmering geometric structures materialized in the atmosphere above Washington, London, Tokyo, Beijing, Moscow, and every other capital city simultaneously. They looked like crystalline art installations crafted from captured starlight, beautiful and delicate, hovering silently 3 miles above the Earth's surface. "Are they ships?" Admiral Torres asked, studying the readings that her instruments were struggling to interpret. "We don't know what they are," admitted Dr. Patricia Kim, the Pentagon's chief scientific advisor. "They're not registering as solid matter, but they're definitely there. No energy signatures we can identify, no propulsion systems, no weapons that we can detect. They just appeared." In Geneva, Dr. Elena Vasquez watched identical structures hover above the Swiss mountains, their surfaces shifting between colors that shouldn't have been visible to human eyes. Every government facility on Earth was receiving the same reports. The objects had appeared simultaneously, with timing precision that suggested technology far beyond human capabilities. Then they began broadcasting. Every television, radio, computer, and communication device on Earth simultaneously displayed the same image. The being that appeared was clearly not human, but there was something profoundly peaceful about their presence. Coordinator Zephyr stood 7 feet tall, with skin that seemed to contain swirling galaxies of light beneath its surface. Their facial features were elegant and symmetrical, with large eyes that held depths of wisdom that made every human observer feel like they were looking into the face of eternity itself. 4 arms moved gracefully as they spoke, and their voice carried harmonics that somehow translated perfectly into every language on the planet. "People of Earth," Zephyrus began, their voice carrying the weight of cosmic authority tempered with genuine compassion. "I am Coordinator Zephyrus of the Celestial Conservation Alliance. We represent a coalition of advanced civilizations dedicated to preserving intelligent life throughout the galaxy." President Santos leaned forward in her emergency session chair, surrounded by world leaders who were experiencing humanity's first contact with alien intelligence during the worst crisis in human history. "We have been observing your species for many centuries," Zephyrus continued. "Your creativity, your resilience, your capacity for growth and adaptation, these qualities mark you as a species worthy of preservation. However, your world stands at the threshold of what we call the Great Filter." Dr. Elena Vasquez felt her breath catch. The Great Filter was a theoretical concept that scientists had debated for decades. The idea that there was some cosmic challenge that prevented most intelligent species from advancing beyond a certain point of development. "The convergence of crises you are experiencing is not unique to Earth," Zephyrus explained, their luminous form radiating what appeared to be genuine sadness. "We have observed this pattern across thousands of worlds. Climate collapse, resource depletion, social fragmentation. These are the symptoms that appear when a developing civilization encounters forces beyond their current understanding." The aliens' expression grew more serious, their galaxy-filled eyes seeming to look directly at each individual human watching the broadcast. "Most species do not survive the Great Filter. The cosmic forces that create these convergence events are relentless and predictable. But you do not have to suffer the same fate as countless other promising civilizations. We offer your species complete sanctuary," Zephyrus announced, their 4 arms spreading in a gesture that somehow conveyed both invitation and urgency. "Immediate relocation to a preserved world in the Andromeda Sanctuary Cluster, a planet we have prepared specifically for species like humanity." The scope of their offer was staggering. Transportation technology that could safely move Earth's entire population of 8 billion people across intergalactic distances. A new world with Earth-like atmospheric composition, gravity, and seasonal patterns, but with abundant resources and stable climate systems. Advanced alien technology to ensure humanity's continued survival and development. Most importantly, protection from the unspecified cosmic forces that had apparently triggered Earth's convergence crisis. "Your new world has been terraformed to support human life indefinitely," Zephyrus continued. "Vast continents with fertile soil, clean oceans teeming with life, mountain ranges and forests that will remind you of Earth's beauty before the current crisis began." The climate systems are stable and self-regulating. There are no predatory species, no natural disasters, no resource limitations that could threaten your civilization's development. Admiral Torres exchanged glances with her staff, all of whom were thinking the same thing. It sounded too good to be true. The transportation process is completely safe, Zephyrus assured them, as if reading their thoughts. Our vessels can accommodate millions of humans per journey. Personal belongings, cultural artifacts, genetic samples of Earth's biodiversity, everything that makes your civilization unique can be preserved and relocated. President Santa stood up in the emergency session chamber, her voice carrying the authority of someone speaking for the entire human species. Coordinator Zephyrus, humanity is grateful for your offer. But I must ask, what do you want in return? Zephyrus's expression showed what appeared to be genuine surprise, their luminous eyes widening slightly. Want? We want nothing from your species. The Celestial Conservation Alliance exists solely to preserve intelligent life. Consider us cosmic wildlife conservationists, dedicated to ensuring that promising species survive to reach their full potential. But why us? Why now? Pressed Prime Minister David Kim from the European Federation, voicing the question that was forming in millions of human minds. For the first time since the broadcast began, Zephyrus hesitated. The pause was barely perceptible, lasting perhaps 2 seconds, but every world leader noticed it. Because, Zephyrus replied, their voice carrying what seemed like infinite sadness. The forces converging on this sector of space will arrive within 6 months. After that point, even the Celestial Conservation Alliance cannot guarantee protection for any species remaining in this region. The transmission continued with technical details about sanctuary evaluation sites, where humans could inspect their potential new home, and promises to return in 72 hours for humanity's final answer. But as the alien forms faded from the sky, leaving behind only the impossible promise of salvation, one question echoed in every human mind. If these benevolent aliens were offering sanctuary from cosmic forces, what exactly was coming that was so terrible it would make abandoning Earth seem like the better option? And why wouldn't they explain what these mysterious cosmic forces actually were? Within hours of Coordinator Zephyrus's broadcast, the Celestial Conservation Alliance began what they called sanctuary evaluation protocols. Across the globe, their crystalline vessels descended to establish demonstration sites where humans could witness their promised new world firsthand. Dr. Elena Vasquez was among the first to visit the Geneva site, located in what had been a dying agricultural valley outside the city. As she approached the alien installation, she stopped walking entirely. The barren, drought-scorched farmland had been transformed into something that belonged in a paradise tourism brochure. Rolling green hills stretched for miles, covered in vegetation that somehow looked both familiar and impossibly perfect. Trees bore fruit that glowed with subtle bioluminescence. Streams of crystal-clear water flowed uphill, defying gravity as they carved elegant patterns through landscapes that shifted and evolved as she watched. The air itself felt different, cleaner, more energizing, carrying scents of flowers that didn't exist on Earth. How is this possible? She whispered to Dr. Marcus Chen, who was frantically taking readings with every scientific instrument they'd brought. Elena, according to our sensors, this isn't an illusion or hologram, Marcus replied, his voice shaking with excitement and confusion. This is actual matter transformation. They've converted approximately 50 square kilometers of dead Earth into a thriving ecosystem in less than 12 hours. Commander Sarah Liu from the Chinese Space Administration was documenting similar transformations at the Beijing site. The biodiversity readings are incredible, she reported via satellite, linked to the global monitoring network. Species that went extinct decades ago are thriving here. Plants that should take years to mature are growing to full size in hours. And the soil composition, it's like they've solved every agricultural problem we've ever encountered. At the Lagos site, Dr. Emmanuel Okafor was witnessing something that challenged his understanding of basic physics. The aliens had created what appeared to be a climate control system that maintained perfect 75-degree temperatures, while a devastating heat wave scorched the surrounding region. The energy requirements for this should be astronomical, he transmitted to the global science network. Yet our instruments detect no power source, no energy emissions, no heat signatures. They're violating the fundamental laws of thermodynamics, and they're doing it casually. President Maria Santos toured the Washington demonstration site with a delegation of world leaders, all of whom were struggling to maintain diplomatic composure while witnessing what appeared to be miracles. The alien guides, graceful beings who introduced themselves as conservation specialists, led them through environments that showcased solutions to every crisis humanity faced. Vast vertical farms produced abundant food using no soil, no water, and no energy sources that human science could identify. Manufacturing facilities created advanced technology by apparently converting raw atmospheric elements into complex materials. Weather control systems demonstrated their ability to prevent natural disasters before they could form. Your species will have access to all of these technologies, explained conservation specialist Lyrinus, their crystalline voice carrying harmonics that made every word sound like poetry. Scarcity and environmental destruction will become concepts of the past. Your children will grow up in a world where hunger, disease, and natural disasters are merely historical curiosities. British Prime Minister Elizabeth Harper asked the question that was troubling several world leaders. These technologies could solve Earth's problems right now. Why relocate humanity instead of sharing these solutions here? Lyrinus's luminous form flickered slightly, a micro-expression that Dr. Elena Vasquez, watching via live feed, found oddly unsettling. Earth's position in this galactic sector makes it suitable for long-term habitation. The cosmic forces we've mentioned create environmental instabilities that even our technology cannot permanently counteract. The explanation sounded reasonable, but Dr. Vasquez noticed that it didn't actually answer the question. While world leaders marveled at alien demonstrations, a small group of scientists and military analysts began noticing details that didn't quite add up. Admiral Rebecca Torres was reviewing intelligence reports from all demonstration sites when she identified the first pattern. Every one of these installations appeared in regions where our satellite coverage has blind spots, she told her analysis team. That's either an incredible coincidence, or these aliens have been studying our surveillance capabilities for much longer than they've admitted. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. At MIT, Dr. Rachel Foster was running probability calculations on the aliens' arrival timing. The mathematical odds of benevolent aliens arriving exactly when humanity needs rescue, most are approximately 847 billion to 1, she reported to her colleagues. Either we're experiencing the most fortunate cosmic coincidence in galactic history, or there's something we don't understand about cause and effect here. The most disturbing observations came from Dr. James Hawthorne at the European Space Agency. While monitoring deep space communications, he detected transmissions between the alien vessels that weren't being translated for human consumption. They're communicating in their own language when they think we're not listening, he reported to Admiral Torres via encrypted channels. I can't translate it, but the transmission pattern suggests they're discussing timelines, logistics, and something they keep referring to with a symbol that appears frequently in urgent contexts. Dr. Elena Vasquez requested a private meeting with Coordinator Zephyrus, using her position as Director of Global Crisis Response to gain access. She met the alien coordinator at the Geneva site, surrounded by the impossible paradise they'd created overnight. Coordinator, your demonstrations are remarkable, she began carefully. but I'm a scientist, and scientists ask questions. Could you provide more specific information about these cosmic forces that threaten Earth? Zephyrus's galaxy-filled eyes regarded her with what appeared to be patient understanding. Dr. Vasquez, your curiosity is admirable and entirely expected. However, the nature of these forces is complex. Your current scientific framework lacks the conceptual foundation necessary to comprehend cosmic-scale phenomena. Try me, Elena pressed. I've dedicated my career to understanding complex systems. Surely you can provide at least basic parameters about what humanity is supposedly fleeing from. For the first time since contact began, Zephyrus seemed to struggle with their response. Their four arms moved in what Elena was beginning to recognize as nervous gestures, and their luminous skin flickered between different shades of cosmic light. The forces are multiple in nature, gravitational anomalies, dimensional instabilities, energy cascades that affect stellar formation in this galactic region. The interaction between these phenomena creates environments hostile to biological life. The explanation sounded scientific, but Elena noticed it was remarkably vague for a species capable of converting dead Earth into paradise overnight. As the 72-hour deadline approached, world leaders prepared for the most important decision in human history. The Global Unity Council convened an emergency session, with representatives from every surviving nation participating via quantum encrypted channels. The offer appears genuine, reported President Santos to the Assembly. Their technology clearly exceeds our capabilities by centuries, possibly millennia. The paradise worlds they've shown us would solve every crisis humanity faces. Chinese Premier Wang Lei raised his hand. However, we must address the concerns raised by our scientific community. The aliens' reluctance to provide specific information about these cosmic threats is troubling. Russian President Alexei Volkov nodded in agreement. In my experience, when someone offers you salvation but won't explain what you're being saved from, they're usually saving you from themselves. Dr. Elena Vasquez addressed the council via holographic projection from Geneva. Distinguished leaders, I've spent my career analyzing crisis scenarios. The aliens' behavior pattern matches classic negotiation, tactics designed to prevent targets from asking inconvenient questions. They're using time pressure, overwhelming benefits, and vague threats to discourage detailed analysis. Admiral Torres joined the discussion from the Pentagon. Our intelligence analysis supports Dr. Vasquez's concerns. The aliens' arrival timing, their knowledge of our surveillance gaps, and their evasive responses to direct questions suggest the situation is more complex than a simple rescue operation. President Santos surveyed the faces of world leaders who carried the weight of 8 billion lives in their decisions. So the question becomes, do we trust beings who offer paradise but won't explain the price? Or do we risk humanity's extinction by asking inconvenient questions? The answer would determine whether humanity chose salvation or freedom, assuming those two options weren't mutually exclusive. Dr. James Hawthorne hadn't slept in 36 hours. In his laboratory at the European Space Agency, surrounded by quantum computers and deep space monitoring equipment, he was on the verge of the most important breakthrough in human history, or the most terrifying discovery. I've cracked part of their communication protocol, he announced via encrypted video call to Dr. Elena Vasquez and Admiral Rebecca Torres. His eyes were bloodshot, but his voice carried the electric excitement of a scientist who'd found something extraordinary. The aliens aren't just discussing logistics. They're coordinating with multiple fleets that aren't anywhere near Earth. Admiral Torres leaned forward in her Pentagon office. Multiple fleets? How many are we talking about? At least 12 distinct command signatures, James replied, his fingers flying across holographic displays showing alien transmission patterns. But here's what's really disturbing. They're not rescue fleets. Based on the communication protocols, they're military formations positioned throughout this entire galactic sector. Dr. Elena Vasquez felt her blood turn cold. "James, are you saying this is some kind of invasion force?" "Not exactly," he replied, pulling up a three-dimensional map of intercepted signals. "It's more like a coordinated operation. The fleets are positioned to control key stellar positions throughout this region of space. Earth isn't the target, we're just one piece of a much larger operation." Commander Lisa Park was aboard the International Space Station when she made the observation. That changed everything. While conducting routine astronomical surveys, she'd noticed something that the alien visitors probably hadn't expected humans to detect. "Ground control, this is Commander Park with an urgent priority transmission." She radioed to both NASA and the Global Crisis Response Center. "I'm observing massive gravitational anomalies throughout our local stellar neighborhood. Objects the size of planets are moving in coordinated patterns approximately 2 light years from Earth. Double quotes. Dr. Elena Vasquez took the call directly. "Commander, are you saying there are actual cosmic forces heading toward Earth?" "That's exactly what I'm saying," Lisa replied, her voice tight with concern. "But Elena, here's the problem. These aren't natural phenomena. The movement patterns are too precise, too coordinated. These are artificial constructs moving with obvious intelligent direction." The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. "Commander, how long have these objects been in motion?" "Based on trajectory analysis, they began moving approximately 18 months ago, right around the time Earth's convergence crisis began accelerating. At MIT, Dr. Rachel Foster was running calculations that confirmed everyone's worst fears. The timeline correlation is perfect, she reported to the Emergency Science Council. Earth's environmental crisis didn't trigger the aliens' offer of sanctuary. The aliens' operation triggered Earth's environmental crisis. Dr. Elena Vasquez demanded an immediate meeting with Coordinator Zephyrus. This time, she brought Admiral Torres, Dr. Foster, and a full team of scientists armed with evidence. They met at the Geneva demonstration site, surrounded by the alien-created paradise that now felt more like a beautiful trap. "Coordinator Zephyrus," Elena began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who'd uncovered a massive deception. "We've detected the objects moving toward Earth. We know about your military fleets positioned throughout this stellar region. And we know that Earth's convergence crisis began exactly when your operation started." Zephyrus's luminous form flickered, their galaxy-filled eyes showing the first signs of genuine concern since contact began. "Dr. Vasquez, you are making assumptions based on incomplete data." "Then complete it," Admiral Torres interrupted, her military bearing evident even in the face of cosmic beings. "Tell us exactly what those objects are and why they're heading for Earth." For several long moments, Zephyrus remained silent. When they finally spoke, their voice carried none of its earlier warmth. "The objects you have detected are enforcement constructs. They are designed to implement what your species would call cosmic zoning regulations." Dr. Foster stepped forward, her probability calculations ready. "Zoning regulations for what purpose?" "This stellar region has been designated for restructuring. Species that cannot adapt to new cosmic parameters must be relocated for their own protection." The euphemisms were falling away like discarded masks. Elena pressed harder, demanding real answers. "Restructuring by whom?" "Cosmic parameters set by whom? Protection from what, exactly?" Zephyrus's beautiful facade cracked completely. They're luminous. Skin darkened, and their forearms moved in sharp, agitated gestures. "The Galactic Collective has designated this region for resource extraction and dimensional engineering. The gravitational modifications necessary for these operations will make this space uninhabitable for carbon-based life forms." The silence that followed was deafening. Every human in the room understood the implications simultaneously. "You're strip mining our entire stellar neighborhood," Admiral Torres said, her voice barely above a whisper. And you need the native species out of the way before you begin. The process is not strip mining, Zephyrus protested, but their tone suggested they knew the distinction was meaningless. We are harvesting dark matter concentrations and implementing dimensional fold technology for faster-than-light transit networks. The economic benefits to galactic civilization are substantial. Dr. Elena Vasquez felt the last pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. The convergence crisis on Earth, you caused it. You destabilized our climate systems to make your relocation offer more appealing. Environmental pressure was applied to encourage voluntary cooperation, Zephyrus admitted. Forced relocations are less efficient and more costly than voluntary evacuation. The scope of the deception was staggering. The aliens hadn't come to save humanity from cosmic forces. They were the cosmic forces. They had deliberately triggered Earth's environmental collapse to make their sanctuary offer irresistible. The paradise worlds they demonstrated weren't rewards for cooperation. They were reservations where inconvenient species could be stored while their home regions were converted into galactic infrastructure. How many species have you relocated this way? Dr. Foster asked, though she already suspected the answer. Would be horrifying. The Andromeda Sanctuary Cluster currently houses 1,847 preserved species from 312 different worlds, Zephyrus replied with what might have been pride. All are thriving in environments specifically designed for their biological requirements. Thriving in captivity, Elena corrected. You're cosmic zookeepers, and you want to add humanity to your collection. Zephyrus's expression showed something. That might have been regret, but their words carried the finality of cosmic bureaucracy. The dimensional engineering begins in 4 months. With or without voluntary cooperation, the stellar region will be uninhabitable for your species. The sanctuary offer represents your only realistic option for survival. As the alien coordinators, image faded from the demonstration site, leaving behind only the artificial paradise that now looked like an elaborate cage. The humans faced a truth more terrifying than any cosmic monster. They weren't being rescued from galactic predators. They were being processed by galactic civilization itself, as efficiently and inevitably as any other. Natural resource. The question was no longer what cosmic forces were coming for Earth. The question was whether humanity would choose to be saved by the very entities that had doomed them, or find a third option that their cosmic benefactors had never considered possible. The emergency session of the Global Unity Council convened in a reinforced bunker beneath Geneva with world leaders, participating via quantum-encrypted channels from secure locations across the globe. The weight of choosing humanity's fate pressed down on everyone present like a physical force. President Maria Santos opened the session with grim efficiency. Fellow leaders, the evidence is conclusive. We face a choice between accepting permanent captivity in alien preservation facilities or remaining on Earth to face dimensional engineering that will destroy all life in this stellar region within 4 months. Coordinator Zephyrus appeared on the main communication screen, their luminous form no longer radiating the false warmth of earlier encounters. The cosmic bureaucrat had replaced the benevolent savior completely. Honored representatives of humanity, Zephyrus began, their voice carrying the cold authority of galactic administration. The Galactic Collective has reviewed your recent investigations. While your scientific capabilities are more advanced than initially calculated, they do not alter the fundamental reality of your situation. Chinese Premier Wang Li leaned forward. Coordinator, are you confirming that the Galactic Collective deliberately triggered Earth's environmental collapse to force our compliance with relocation? Environmental pressure protocols are standard procedure for voluntary species transitions, Zephyrus replied without apparent shame. The alternative forced evacuation during active dimensional engineering results in significantly higher mortality rates. Russian President Alexei Volkov's face darkened with barely controlled anger. You're offering us a choice between slavery and extinction. We prefer the term cosmic citizenship, Zephyrus corrected. Your species will be preserved, protected, and provided with environments optimized for your biological and psychological needs. The 1,847 species currently residing in sanctuary clusters have adapted well to their new circumstances. Dr. Elena Vasquez, participating as scientific advisor, asked the question that everyone was thinking. What happens to species that refuse both options? Zephyrus's pause was longer than usual. In 847,000 years of galactic collective operations, no species has ever refused sanctuary when facing dimensional engineering. The mathematical impossibility of resistance makes alternative planning unnecessary. Admiral Rebecca Torres stood up in the bunker, her military bearing evident even in the face of cosmic powers. Coordinator Zephyrus, you've made one crucial miscalculation about humanity. Admiral Torres, Zephyrus replied with what might have been cosmic patience. Your species' tendency toward irrational optimism has been factored into our projections. Hope does not alter physical laws or political realities. You're right about hope, Admiral Torres replied, a dangerous smile crossing her face, but you've never encountered human spite. Dr. Elena Vasquez activated a holographic display showing data compiled from observatories around the world. Coordinator, you mentioned that dimensional engineering requires precise gravitational calibrations across multiple stellar positions. Correct. The mathematical precision required is beyond your current technological capabilities to comprehend or interfere with. Actually, interrupted Dr. Rachel Foster from MIT, joining the discussion via secure link, we've run the calculations. The dimensional fold network you're constructing has a critical vulnerability that your species apparently never considered. Zephyrus's luminous form flickered with what appeared to be the first sign of genuine concern they'd shown since revealing their true nature. Explain. Dr. Foster's smile was sharp with scientific confidence. The network requires quantum entanglement synchronization across all nodes simultaneously. If even one stellar position experiences unexpected gravitational anomalies during the activation sequence, the entire network destabilizes catastrophically. Human technology cannot generate gravitational anomalies of sufficient magnitude to affect stellar engineering, Zephyrus stated, but their voice carried less certainty than before. You're absolutely right, President Santos interjected. Human technology can't, but solar technology can. Dr. James Hawthorne appeared on screen from the European Space Agency, his exhausted face now bright with manic inspiration. Coordinator, while you've been focused on Earth's civilizational development, you've overlooked our sun's natural instabilities. Sol is a stable main sequence star with predictable output patterns, Zephyrus replied, but their form was flickering more rapidly now. Normally, yes, James agreed. But we've developed technology to trigger controlled solar flares with precise timing and intensity. Originally designed for asteroid deflection, the system can generate gravitational pulse waves that propagate throughout the solar system. Admiral Torres took over the explanation. We've identified the exact moment when your dimensional engineering network will be most vulnerable during the initial synchronization phase. A precisely timed solar flare will create gravitational resonance that cascades through your entire stellar region network. The resulting destabilization won't just prevent the dimensional engineering, Dr. Foster added with obvious satisfaction. It will create a gravitational dead zone that makes this entire stellar region unsuitable for your operations for approximately 50,000 years. Zephyrus's expression showed something that no human had ever seen from a member of the Galactic Collective: genuine fear. You cannot be serious. The energy requirements alone would destabilize your own star system. Probably, President Santos admitted calmly. We estimate a 60% chance of rendering the solar system temporarily uninhabitable for 200 to 300 years. But that still gives humanity better survival odds than accepting your sanctuary. The alien coordinator's luminous form darkened to deep purples and reds as they processed the implications of humanity's plan. This is madness. You would risk destroying your own world rather than accept preservation? Dr. Elena Vasquez stood to deliver humanity's final answer. Coordinator Zephyrus, you've studied human civilization for centuries, but you've fundamentally misunderstood our core nature. We don't value survival above freedom. We don't choose safety over self-determination. And we sure as hell don't trust anyone who destroys our world and then offers to save us from the destruction they caused. But even if your plan succeeds, Zephyrus protested, you will have gained nothing. Your environmental crisis will continue. Your civilization will still collapse within 2 years. Then we'll face that challenge ourselves, Admiral Torres replied firmly. As free humans making our own choices, not as preserved specimens in your cosmic zoo. The silence stretched for nearly a minute before Zephyrus spoke again, their voice carrying what might have been respect mixed with incomprehension. The Galactic Collective will note in its records that Earth species chose extinction over preservation. Your decision will be unprecedented. Good, President Santos replied. Make sure every species in your sanctuary clusters hears about the humans who told the galaxy to go to hell. As Zephyrus's form faded from the communication screens, Dr. James Hawthorne was already initiating the solar flare sequence from observatories around the world. The plan was desperate, dangerous, and would likely doom human civilization anyway, but it would doom them as free beings making their own choices. 48 hours later, as massive solar flares erupted with precisely calculated intensity, gravitational waves rippled through space toward the Galactic Collective's dimensional engineering network. The aliens' crystalline ships departed Earth's atmosphere rapidly, fleeing a stellar region that was about to become cosmically uninhabitable for millennia. Humanity had chosen the third option that no galactic bureaucrat had ever considered. They would rather die free than live in captivity, even if captivity came with perfect safety and comfort. As the last alien vessel disappeared into hyperspace, Earth faced an uncertain future with a damaged sun, an unstable climate, and the ongoing Convergence Crisis. But for the first time in years, they faced it as humans making human choices chaotic, irrational, and absolutely free. The galaxy had learned something that day about the species from the small blue world. When you offer humans sanctuary, they're going to ask what's coming. And when you won't give them a straight answer, they'll assume the worst and plan accordingly. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Global Resilience Station, watching the aurora-like displays that still danced across Earth's sky 6 months after the solar flare sequence. The gravitational waves had indeed destabilized the solar system's equilibrium, but in ways that no human scientist had predicted. The sun's modified output had triggered cascading changes throughout the solar system. Earth's magnetic field fluctuated wildly, creating spectacular light shows that were visible even during daylight hours. Weather patterns had become increasingly unpredictable, but strangely, some regions were experiencing improvements in climate stability. The convergence crisis that had threatened civilization was evolving into something entirely different, chaotic, dangerous, but undeniably their own. Elena, you need to see this, called Dr. Marcus Chen from the communications center. His voice carried an excitement that had become rare since the alien's departure. She joined him at a console, displaying deep space monitoring data. What am I looking at? Transmissions from the Galactic Collective, Marcus replied, barely able to contain his enthusiasm. They're not directed at us, we're intercepting communications between their various administrative divisions. On the screen, alien text scrolled past in languages that human computers we're slowly learning to translate. The fragments that came through clearly were remarkable. Earth sector classified as unpredictable. Deviation zone. Recommend indefinite quarantine protocols. Species demonstrates dangerous innovation patterns. Cost-benefit analysis of containment deemed unfavorable. Dr. Elena Vasquez smiled for the first time in months. They're afraid of us. President Maria Santos addressed the Global Unity Council from the rebuilt headquarters in Geneva, her face showing the exhaustion of someone who had led humanity through its darkest and most triumphant period. Fellow representatives, I'm pleased to report that our gamble appears to have had consequences far beyond Earth's solar system, she announced to world leaders participating via holographic projection. Admiral Rebecca Torres joined the session from the newly established Cosmic Defense Command. Our deep space monitoring stations are detecting unprecedented activity throughout this galactic sector. The Galactic Collective has withdrawn all dimensional engineering operations from approximately 200 star systems. The implications were staggering. Humanity's defiant stand hadn't just saved Earth, it had disrupted an entire galactic infrastructure project spanning hundreds of worlds. More importantly, Admiral Torres continued, we're receiving transmissions from other species. In the sanctuary clusters, word of Earth's resistance has spread through the preserved civilizations, and several are demanding repatriation to their home worlds. Dr. Rachel Foster from MIT appeared on screen with data that confirmed everyone's hopes. The mathematical model suggests we've created what chaos theorists call a butterfly effect on a galactic scale. One small act of defiance has destabilized an entire cosmic administrative system. Chinese Premier Wang Lei raised an important question. Have we heard anything from the sanctuary clusters directly? Admiral Torres nodded. 3 days ago, we received our first communication from the Kepler civilization, the same species coordinator. Zephyrus mentioned as being destroyed by cosmic forces. They're very much alive, very much aware of their captivity, and very interested in learning how humanity managed to reject the Galactic Collective's offer. The changes on Earth itself were dramatic and challenging. The solar flare sequence had, indeed, created the environmental instabilities that humanity had risked, but human ingenuity was adapting to the new conditions with remarkable speed. Dr. Emmanuel Okafor reported from the Lagos Climate Adaptation Center. The magnetic field fluctuations have actually created opportunities we never anticipated. We're harvesting energy directly from the aurora phenomena, generating power outputs that exceed our pre-crisis capabilities. In the Arctic Research Station, Dr. Sarah Martinez was documenting the most unexpected consequence of their choice. The gravitational anomalies have stabilized some of our most critical climate systems. The Antarctic ice shelf has actually begun regenerating, though in completely new configurations. The Convergence Crisis that had threatened human civilization was transforming into what scientists were calling the adaptation renaissance. Humanity wasn't just surviving their chaotic new environment, they were thriving in it, developing technologies and social systems that were uniquely suited to unpredictable conditions. Commander Lisa Park, now director of the Expanded Space Monitoring Network, offered the most encouraging news. Our solar system's new gravitational signature is apparently creating a natural barrier that makes large-scale alien operations extremely difficult to implement. We've effectively made ourselves a cosmic hazard zone. Dr. Elena Vasquez returned to the same observation deck where she'd first witnessed Earth's transformation. The aurora displays were particularly spectacular tonight, painting the sky in colors that seemed to shift between earthly beauty and cosmic wonder. She was joined by President Santos, who had become more than a political leader during humanity's crisis. She had become the voice of human determination in a galaxy that had never encountered it before. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd accepted their offer? President Santos asked, watching the light show that was now a permanent feature of Earth's sky. Every day, Elena replied honestly. We'd be safe, comfortable, probably. Happy in our assigned habitats. Our children would grow up in perfect environments with no dangers, no uncertainties, no need to struggle or adapt or grow. And we'd have lost everything that makes us human. The president concluded. The reports coming in from around the world painted a picture of a species that had chosen the harder path and was discovering strengths they never knew they possessed. Communities were rebuilding with technologies adapted to the new environmental realities. International cooperation had reached levels that the old world's politicians had only dreamed of. Most importantly, humanity was writing its own story, rather than having it written for them. Elena, President Santos said as they watched the cosmic light show dance across the atmosphere, "Do you think we made the right choice?" Dr. Elena Vasquez thought about the 1,847 species living in comfortable captivity in the Andromeda Sanctuary Cluster. She thought about the perfect worlds the aliens had offered, free from danger, uncertainty, and the messy complications of freedom. Then she thought about the chaotic, unpredictable, dangerous, and absolutely free world that humanity had chosen to keep. "Ask me in 100 years," she replied with a smile. "But I suspect we'll still be asking the same questions that got us into this situation in the first place. What's coming next, and how do we face it on our own terms?" Above them, the aurora displays pulsed with energy that was uniquely Earth's own, beautiful, unpredictable, and free. The galaxy had learned something important about the species from the small blue world. When you offer human sanctuary, they don't just ask what's coming, they decide what comes next. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.